Welcome, Inner Circle and Online Vault members, to this month's photography-based video program. I am Todd Lewis with Charles Lewis Photography, and joining me are two gentlemen that you can see right below me here. First, directly below me is a photographer and business person, lecturer, educator, musician, husband, father. You wear a lot of hats. That's Tom Morelli from Brewer, Maine. Hello, Tom.
The hat turned my hair white and started to wear it away. But hi, Todd. Hi, Chuck. Great to be here. Hello, everyone.
Well, it's great to have you here, Tom. Thank you, as always, for lending your expertise to what we're teaching to photographers from all over the world. And then, of course, below Tom there is my cohort in crime, if you will, in business. Let's put it that way, and in art creation. My father, Charles Lewis. Hello, Dad.
Hello, Todd. Hello, Tom, and hello, members.
Yeah, well, each month we are doing a program that is on the business side of being a successful photographer, and we also do a program that's on photography techniques and so forth. Today we're kind of talking a mix of the two. So even though it says photography techniques there, we're also kind of talking the business and how it kind of applied to the types of photography that Tom did this year. So this one will have a little bit more of a business edge to it as well, because we get asked a lot from photographers and members, how much can you make in photography, and how many hours do you have to work in order to do it, and things like that. So we thought it would be really interesting to bring Tom in here today and have him talk a little bit about what this past year has been like for him specifically. So Tom, thank you so much for everything that you sent me and everything that you're sharing here today, because I think it will be very enlightening for photographers to have a sense of what's happening over this past year, and a year where we were really finally hoping to start getting back to kind of normal after COVID and shutdowns and all of that stuff over the last 3 years or so. And it'll be interesting to hear kind of how this year has gone for you, and some choices, some even tough choices that you've made this year as well. I look forward to jumping right into those. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about why you should listen to us. So first of all, my father and I have been in the photography business myself for nearly 40 years. That's hard to even believe. About 38 years now that I've been working to some degree in the photography business. About 30 years or so directly in the marketing and selling, and that's it. My father, on the other hand, has been in the photographic industry now for 48 years, 40, I don't know. A lot of years, right, Dad?
Yeah, I call it 50.
Yeah, 50 years or so, both as a professional photographer, obviously, and then also teaching photography techniques to other photographers all over the world through live programs, and now through the online vault and the stuff that we're doing here virtually, consulting and coaching one-on-one with photographers all over the country. So we are knee deep in all of the behind the scenes stuff that goes into making a photography business run really well and give you the type of lifestyle that you want to have. Now, Tom, how about you? Why should people listen to you? How long have you been in the business? Do you enjoy it? Why should anyone listen to what you have to say today?
This is my 42nd year as a full-time professional photographer. It's all I've ever really done ever since I started in 1980, and loving it more than ever. I think the more you learn, and you make mistakes and you learn from those, so it's more fun and profitable than ever. And, you develop, you refine. So your ability to work with people, your photography ability, of course, and to create great portraits, but also how to run the business. And 40 years ago when I saw Chuck Lewis speak, I thought I could never do that. And here I've been 4 decades later, still going for it. And a big part of that, of course, is what we're going to talk about today and what you get on the online vault, of course.
It sure is. And one of the things that's so wonderful about Tom is not only is he a wonderful photographer, but his personality and everything, his clients love working with him, his ability to pass the knowledge that he has on to other photographers is so strong. And that's, as my dad can attest to, and I can attest to, it's one thing to know how to do something. It's another thing entirely to be able to teach it and pass it on to other people in a way that will be constructive to them. And that's why we're very fortunate to have you, Tom, and you, Dad, to share your years of expertise in a way that other photographers can digest, utilize, and implement quickly.
Thank you.
You bet. And also, as the first screen showed, these are all things that are proven to work. That's what we are really all about sharing, are the things that are proven to work in your photography business. And there's no reason to waste time sharing things that don't work. All right. So first, let's dive right in here. And, kind of talk a little bit about what this year has been like overall, kind of a quick overview. So, Tom, you kind of know the things that we're going to drill down a little deeper into as we go here. But just first of all, I'll throw a couple questions out to you. Let's dive back a couple years, the last few years prior. Kind of quickly, what were those years like? The dark years, the pandemic years, if you will.
You read my mind, which should seek therapy right away. You're like Spock with the mind meld. We were closed for 8 months of that year and didn't know exactly when we could reopen. Of course, we were under all those necessary rules for small businesses, and we were one of the last to get to reopen. So fortunately, having been in business at that time, 38, 39 years, I had enough resources that I was fine. Financially, everything was great, but I love to do what I do. So I was going a little stir crazy. I was still marketing and trying to let people know when we'd be open back up and answer questions and so forth. Then came the transition year, which is what I call last year, 2021, where it started to open back up and things started to take off, but we still weren't quite where we wanted to be. But that dark time, I'd prefer not to go back to that because, I can only cook so much and watch so much, old movies with my daughter and things like that. And eventually I got to do something creative or else I'll go crazy.
Yeah, challenging time for everyone globally, obviously. Photographers took a real hit because what we do kind of requires being in person. Pretty much every step of the way, through the process when you're doing the process the most profitable way. So, and so now let's jump to this year and kind of an overview of this year. Overall, how would you categorize this year in comparison to the pandemic couple of years that we had? The pandemic major year and then the year of kind of getting back a little bit to normal. How would you categorize it compared to that? And then how would you categorize this year compared to previous years, just as an overview?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd say people are happy and thrilled that we're pretty much up to speed this year, where I was back prior, like in 2018, early 2019, before everything had to close down. So people are just happy that they're doing more normal behaviors and that we can have fun with the photography sessions, and people don't even really think so much about it. Naturally, we still let people know how our protocols work and we want to keep people safe, and we do whatever they're comfortable with. But for the most part, people are just so thrilled to be out and about that it makes the photography sessions a lot easier because they're happy to see me. Who wouldn't be, right? Well, but we just have a great time. But I think there's a greater appreciation now, maybe for, gratitude. I talk a lot to people like, we're just so grateful to kind of have our family together and things. And that works hand in hand with the portrait business because people are grateful to be together and getting their families together to be photographed. So that's what makes it so fun for me, but also profitable because people are looking to invest again, where before they were holding back, not knowing what was going to happen with the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. And now, Tom, just to put this out there right up front, in preparation for this, you and I have been talking back and forth a lot over the last couple of weeks, preparing everything, getting your numbers that you can share for each type of photography that you've done. Going to be really nice, enlightening stuff for our members. But you made a decision this year. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that decision first before we jump right into the specific numbers. You were in the enviable position to be able to make the choice to slow down just a little bit. Why don't you talk just a little bit about the decision that you made this year, why you made that decision, and what it's going to mean for you going forward?
Two girls in my life were part of what pushed this forward. One is my eldest granddaughter who is a senior in nursing school. She's going to be a nurse like my wife is. That hit me. I remember holding this little muffin in my hands not too many years ago, and my own daughter is a high school senior, and just we've been looking at colleges, and I think she's going to stay local within Maine, but I want to be able to help her and visit her and so forth. And my son's getting older, so just a lot of desire to take some time off. And honestly, I could have probably retired this year, or just stop doing photography, but I love it, and the phone keeps ringing, and I jokingly say Walmart doesn't need any greeters right now, and I don't want to do that anyway. But nothing against Walmart, but passage of time, and I can't do what I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, that kind of schedule that I had to do back then. I remember, I don't know if it was you, Chuck, but someone saying, when you start your career, you're going to trade time for money. Yeah, I worked Thanksgivings, I worked Christmases, I worked, you name it, I did it. I was there because I needed the money. Now I trade money for time, meaning I will give up some income on purpose and just slow down things a little bit. So I am buying the time to spend with my family and friends, because you get to a certain spot and you see people that aren't with us anymore, great grandparents or grandparents, and you're like, I want to be around as long as I can to enjoy the people that are here and I love, and my friends and neighbors. And so I just said, we'll take a little more time off. So business, the demand is way up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I physically decided to say, okay, I'm going to take this number and that's it, put it in my budget, and it works out fine.
Yeah, and just to be super clear, this is again a decision that you made based on this was a choice that you made. You said the phone's been ringing off the hook. You haven't done anything differently. See, that's the thing, is you're doing the same kind of marketing that you've always done, which means that phone is ringing again. Those clients are coming in. You've got but now you can control the volume of work that you do through the prices that you set and how much marketing you do, just by, hey, I'm going to do a little bit less of this, or I'm going to be a little bit more picky on this, or whatever it is. So you've been able to, I just want to be really clear with everyone that this choice had nothing to do with COVID from a business standpoint. Right. But it might very well have had to do a little bit with COVID, in that it reminded you of the things that are really important, the passage of time and all of that, where you said, you know what, I want to be able to take even more time to spend with family, do these other things. But you are by no means looking at closing your business down in any way, shape, or form.
No, I know a lot of old photographers, and I plan on being one. But, and part of that is, before we move on, is you do see people that hit a certain age and they just sort of hit the rocking chair. They don't do anything. They don't travel. They don't do something with friends and family. They don't have any interests or pursuits anymore, or hobbies or things, whether it's work or not. And they just sort of wither away. And I love music and photography. The music I do for fun, even though I get paid a little for it. It's not my living. The photography, I had a session yesterday. It means so much to me. A family came in. I photographed them when they were babies, high school seniors, did their wedding. They've had 3 children since then, all through my baby plan. And yesterday they came in. I'll try not to choke up on this. They have a very dear friend. The mom suffered a stroke when she was having her baby. She's not able to do much right now. And so they always had an agreement as best friends. So she has taken over the care for the baby. The baby lives with them right now. Dad had passed away also. It's kind of a tragic story. But my point is, this session, although bittersweet, was so important because we did some photographs of the baby alone for the mom. What other profession allows you to do things like that? It's so meaningful. I mean, there were tears. Everybody was crying during this thing, even though we had a happy time. It just meant so much to them. She says, she always said she wanted you to do baby portraits, and she couldn't wait for the baby to be born. So we did them, and I made sure I did a darn good job so that the mom at least can enjoy them, even though she can't physically take care of her child right now. There's nothing else better than that. So I want to do it as long as I can.
That's right. And you'll be able to do it as long as you want to. It's like as long as you physically can and choose to do it, because you're using the same model that you've always used. It didn't change at all post-COVID. Everything stayed. In fact, it stayed the same even during COVID to a degree, because you were still out there. You were still posting on Facebook, doing all of the things that you do. All right, let's dive in here, because I want to talk about, what things did you discover or learn this past year? What things maybe surprised you that you weren't necessarily expecting to?
The demand probably was number one, just because I wasn't sure how quickly things would gear back up. But starting back in January, post Christmas last year, which was a pretty decent year, I just started noticing the phone was ringing even in January. My high school senior models, people were, even though the economy is tougher right now, and people were fearful of prices and so forth, the ones that were responding to the marketing and that end up working with me still had the discretionary income. And I was just kind of surprised. I thought orders would be a lot smaller, perhaps, and that people would be holding back. Now, people did mention it sometimes. They're like, oh, man, oh, the oil bill's coming. We talk about that, and I find a way so they could get what they wanted and still be able to get portraits that they loved, but they were comfortable with doing that. So I was kind of surprised that the demand was still up and that people were still investing in portraits in the same amount or more. And of course, raising prices 10% January, 10% July, even if your gross drops a little, the net profit is still there, so that you're, still maintaining an income and a lifestyle that you want.
All right. What's the number two thing that you learned this past year or discovered?
I found that people still, for all the fancy stuff going on, that the
So you had said that you assumed people would be spending less.
Right.
But in reality, most people are spending the same, if not more. Is that right?
Exactly. The fact that we had raised the prices, but also the fact that during a projection appointment, people were still, human emotions are human emotions. And I had one the other day. I talked to you, Todd, when we were setting this up. I had a $3,200 family portrait projection sale right before we talked. And they talked back and forth, and it was like, honey, well, what do you think? We could, and I mean, they're discussing it, but if you've got the right system in place, it will work, and they'll be thrilled, and they were thrilled that they did this investment, and they'll love it. I'll get some great referrals from them, I'm sure. So I was assuming people would not invest as much, and they have, and then some. I was assuming the phone wouldn't ring as much. Now, I'm a positive person, so I wasn't assuming the worst, but I just had in the back of my mind, okay, here's what we got to do if this happens or that doesn't happen. I had already pre-planned that so that it would make me feel better that I had a plan in place. I also found that people still love traditional photography, that they saw my displays and exhibits, and even though there's all kinds of new fancy things you can do, and I offer some of that stuff, especially with high school seniors, they still want to look good, and they want the clothing to look right, and they want the things we always talk about to look right. So fads and trends were sometimes they're there to the high school senior perhaps might see them, or a young family might see a portrait done in that style. But by the time they get in to talk to me, either they love what I do or they don't decide to have me do their photographs. And so I try to stay away from trendy. Remember fan back chairs and all kinds of different, poofy hair, all those things where you can identify a portrait, what year it was taken roughly by the type of background with laser bolts and all that stuff. So I tried to avoid that, but I just found all my biggest family sessions and any session was more traditional photography still.
Well, plus we specialized in wall portraits as fine decor.
Right.
And when you think about that, you realize that the normal, I mean, there's exceptions, but most people want to have something that looks gorgeous on the wall and goes with their decor. And most of the people in your area and our area are more traditional.
Yes.
Absolutely. And all of these things are pointing to the fact that, again, even during economically challenging times, even during a potential leading up to a recession, inflation, all of that stuff that happens, there will always be people out there that want what you do and will invest very good money for it. No matter what, they're always out there. Your marketing is the key. It has to reach the right people. And then, of course, your VIPs. Talk about that a little bit, Tom. What did you discover or learn about that this year?
I had a lot of people call. You know how sometimes we say if things are really slow, get on the phone and talk to your VIP list and give them a call just to say hi. Well, VIPs were calling me. You still open? And I'm like, haven't you seen my marketing? And I was kind of insulted. And they said, no. We just want to make sure. Are you too busy to take people? So people actually started to call almost like they were checking up on me. And then we would set up a time. So the VIPs were reaching out in some cases before I even reached out to them through emails or for other offers. So that VIP list is still critical, and it proved to me that they care about you. If you take good care of people, they'll care about you too, and they want your small business in your area to succeed. people are very focused on that right now. They want small businesses, a lot of whom, even some of my display areas, restaurants, things like that, that went out of business during COVID years. And so they're thrilled when a small business is local, who invest money back into the local economy, is still opening and cranking along. So don't neglect your VIP list.
Yeah, and what we mean by VIPs, in case you're a new member, is it stands for very important patron. These are the people with whom you have worked in the past. Once they become a member of your family, then you always stay in touch with them, and they are your most valuable list of people because they already know you, like you, and have given you money.
Yeah, great point. The VIP, again, most photographers woefully underestimate and underutilize staying in contact with their VIPs, no matter how few or many you have. They are your best resource for future business as well as past business. That's why we never refer to them as past clients. All right, Tom, what about during the holiday season? Have you noticed anything major happening during this holiday season?
Yeah, it's kind of the law of attraction. It's like people sensed that I was booked and couldn't take anybody else, so they're calling and demanding to be booked. And I said, I wouldn't serve you properly if you're looking for portraits to give gifts for Christmas. We have already filled that. However, you can give one of the, and people are, I don't have a number, but it's over, it's in 5 figures of the amount of gift certificates that I've had people invest in for giving at Christmas or the holidays that will bring in business in January, February, March, whenever they decide to use them. So that demand has been way up, and I hadn't done any extra marketing. I've just done my social media, usual social media marketing for Facebook and Instagram for the gift certificates, but they just seem to really respond. So I've had a bunch of those go out the door, which is good because it means I'll have people coming back through the door to do consultations and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So some discoveries, some things that you learned this year, some things that were a little different, but for the most part, things were very much the same because the model works, the system works, and you're applying it well. All right, let's talk about what types of photography you did the most and kind of when you did them. So let's go ahead and start with high school seniors. So how you discovered some interesting stuff this year, or something interesting happened with your graduating seniors that you weren't necessarily expecting?
Yeah, first of all, they are up. Numbers are up, calls are up. I will give a tiny bit of credit to the fact that my daughter this year is a class of 23 high school senior, but
Nice.
It wasn't just from her high school. So I will say that she gets a little, I'll give her a little Christmas bonus for being on the payroll. But the parents are returning again to the appreciation that the class of 2020 didn't really have much of a graduation year. And so these often are the siblings of, my brother graduated 2 years ago. They didn't even have an in-person graduation. He didn't have any portraits done. The yearbook one was just one we took on an iPhone and sent in, but the parents aren't happy. And they're like, so, this is our son or daughter's final year, this last one. And that's when the opportunity also arose of, hey, we'll do a family portrait too. That son or daughter that missed out on 2020, don't worry about it. Let's get them together now, and that has really raised the, as we always talk about, it really helps out with that senior portrait average. But I've been having more fun with the seniors this year. I've expanded my style slightly. Nothing trendy, but I see some of the looks they like. They like more bokeh, the soft focus background, things like that. But that's attracting them on Instagram or in social media or in when we photograph our senior models. But the parents still, I make sure we do some traditional ones, and those seem to be the ones that the parents are getting the wall portraits of, because in August or 2 years from now, they won't look dated, and they're really, and sometimes the kids are even skeptical, and then they're like, I really like that. It looks really nice. And none of the friends don't have them.
Right.
One woman said to me, I just saw one of my daughter's friends, and her photographs were outside with somebody that just took them out in the field, and she had 3 or 4 friends, and they all looked identical. She said, nobody's had any personality. Every single one was in this field. She says, and they looked at her, they saw her finished order, and they were like, wow, the variety was still there with mine, but also if we want to use the term quality, we don't use a lot, but they could see the difference. It was huge, and I got referrals from that too. So you can definitely still stick out from the crowd, even though there's a ton of amateurs out there doing this part time. You can still make a great living at it and have it be your only profession.
And after all of these years of doing it, you said that this was the first time ever that your senior sessions overtook your number of family portrait sessions, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Now, if you go way back to the film days, remember film? Anybody? Bueller? Yeah, there you go. There's Chuck Lewis, film guy. And Todd, you used to use film and cinematography, I think. Well, maybe you didn't.
I mean, I never got to, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't come to the actual cinematography world until film just really wasn't. I mean, I could still do it now, but I've been purely digital. Yeah.
I don't blame you. But anyway, way back when, I used to do a fair volume of high school seniors, 125 to 140, and my families weren't that high. So my seniors used to, way back in the 90s, did have some years where they outnumbered the families. However, over the last several years, as digital came and people were doing part-time, some of the seniors are doing their own, that dropped down to about 50 or 60 seniors, which is about where we'll end up this year in total. And families are always hovering 35 or 40, one or two a week during the family portrait times, it mixed in with the other types of photography that I do. So this year was the first time the number of seniors in 20 years has been more than the number of families that I photographed, which is kind of neat because those turn into, as exhibited by the folks I photographed yesterday, they get married, they have babies, they have families. And so, it just grows the business. High school seniors, it's like the farm league going to the major league. You take care of them at this age, they remember it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And again, when you get the average sales that you're getting, when you're doing all the parts of the system properly, you don't have to photograph 5 families a week.
No.
One a week, one every week and a half.
Yep.
With the seniors in there and the babies and the children, you make an incredible living without having to work yourself to death, which is really important. Now let's talk about families. What happened with families this year?
Yeah, and I didn't really subgroup this for you. There's 2 types of families. One that just calls out of the blue or from my marketing, or maybe a VIP. They don't have a high school senior yet, but they just want the family group done, and we do subgroups and so forth. And they are really appreciating the fact that they're all together and happy. And I have some booked for after Christmas because of those. I was marketing for those post-holiday get-togethers. The other 2 subgroups of families there's natural family in my baby plan, and in high school seniors, I don't even count those as part of the group of just calling for a family. I know it's a small differentiation. How do you say that? Anyway, the idea is that all these go together, and the family investment raises the baby plan and the high school senior average. But families are investing more. Families are going back, in my opinion, at least from what I've experienced, to really desiring wall portraits. And a lot of the comments I get is that people come to their homes and people literally are going, "Where did you get that?" And it looks really good, because some people do try to print their own iPhone on a cheap canvas or something. It doesn't look good. But so they see the quality of what we've done in this frame with this canvas texture and this well-posed, well-lit, well-clothed family. And they're like, wow, I didn't know anybody even still did that. So that really sets you apart right away. And I found the families are appreciating it more than ever.
Excellent. All right. So family photography has been, and we all kind of noticed this. I'm sure all of our members probably noticed this a bit, that the desire for what we do, especially in family photography, children, babies, even graduating seniors, has more value now than I think it's ever had, because of the crazy and unfortunate few years that we all had as a world, just being reminded of what's important and how important memories are, and forging new memories and so forth. So there's been a lot of fervor for what it is that we do now. The nice thing next here about babies is babies are born year round, no matter what. So what happened with your baby photography this year?
The demand is still the same, and this was the one area I said something's got to give. If I'm going to slow down just a little bit to spend more time with the family, and because I don't have to work so many hours and so forth, I just marketed a little less, although the demand still was there because there are siblings. So I would say 50-60% of the baby plan sessions that I have done this year thus far were siblings in the family, where I'd photographed an older brother or sister in our baby plan, and now they were having another child. The rest were referrals or folks that, we did Facebook marketing, but I cut back a bit. And I'll be quite honest with you, I only have so much time. So if someone called and they only wanted to do, say, just a baby session, I just couldn't get them in. I said, if we can't do the baby plan for you, let's book something for 6 months old. That's a great age, or 1 year. So I did a little modification so I could get them into next year. And, people were more than understanding. And their reaction is this guy's really busy. He must be good. Again, I've had people say that. You must be really good, because I called a few places and they're like, how about tomorrow? And they're like, and I said, but you got like a 4 month. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I'd love to. But and what about Saturdays? I said, yeah, you don't want the Saturday me. No, I'm too tired. And they laugh, and I understand. So the baby plan is the one area I did kind of cut back a bit just in the number I took, but the demand is definitely still there. If one of the other areas softens up, I'll boost those a little bit. So there's always we're keeping track every quarter of profit and loss, and also keeping track of number of sessions and who booked, on our call chart. So I could tell what's up and what's down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And now, again, you can control kind of how many of those you do through your pricing structure, and turning that marketing spigot down a little bit, which is a nice thing to be able to do. What about business and executive portraiture?
Yeah, even though we don't market for that specifically, because I prefer families and babies and high school seniors, there is a local large supermarket chain that called me and said, we'll pay you handsomely if you photograph some of our executives for portraits that go in the stores, which is good. And they have, I don't know, like 150 stores throughout New England. But in Maine, this is just for me in this area. So I accepted that. And that's kind of a year-round, every month. They send me somebody, they're managers of stores, or there's some regional manager or somebody like that. And it becomes a portrait. It's an actual portrait on the wall, so it's not just a digital file. Even though if we did and they paid me well, I'd still probably do it. I also have the local high school that I volunteered during COVID because the kids couldn't show up with their musical instruments. Sports, everybody photographs sports teams and stuff. There's plenty of those people. But the musicians were kind of left out. And as a musician, I was like, these people are superstars too. So I volunteered a few years back during COVID to go down and photograph them one at a time safely. We did a collage. I donated to the school. It's been on their wall now for years. They have a music room. So the music director has hired me for pay to come back and do the same thing each year. I have that coming right up. But also, these are all kids that are juniors and underclassmen that come to me for senior portraits. And lastly, I just had the University of Maine. I mentioned this to you, Todd. A large 4-day assignment. I don't ever do these, but they had a budget I couldn't resist. and indeed, all they wanted was files that they're going to make prints. They make big prints that go up, but it's signage. It's not like, because it's candids of speakers at podiums and things like that. Boring. My feet hurt, but the check cleared. And plus, the events manager hired me, and he said, every once in a while we do the president's portrait. Now that's like a 40 by 60 or larger canvas portrait that the last photographer did. And they said, this guy's getting ready to retire. Do you do those? And I'm like, let me check. Yes, I do that. So that would be a studio business portrait. So there's always little stuff out there. It's up to you how much. I can only fit so much in. I don't market for it, but if something comes along and financially it's beneficial and I get marketing opportunities, because none of these are a one-off. I get to know a lot of people, rub elbows with people in the business community who say, I have a family, I have a high school senior, I have a baby. So I use it really as a marketing tool.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes here, if you will. What did you make this year? So let's kind of break this down by photography type here, starting right out with your, so these are your gross sales numbers as of November 15th of this year. The reason that's important is you've got quite a bit that's going to be coming in here over the last month or so of this year, but we want to be 100% accurate with everything that we share here. And so these were the numbers as of the 15th of November. Let's start right out with your family photography. Looks like you brought in $32,350, all just from family photography. If you want to talk just a little bit about that, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that.
Right. And that will, because family groups are so heavy on the end of the year. And so in November, I photographed a lot that are still in either going to be projected this week, next week, when those sales will result, or have paid a deposit, and the rest is reflected, which is kind of the profit that'll come in when we have an order delivery coming up this month and next month. So that number is probably going to go up by $10 or $15 or $20,000 between now and the end of the year.
And
really.
that's a big difference, right? I mean, that's, another 15, 20 grand. That's, between 50 and 60, 65% more added on top of that. So it's 32,000, by mid-November, that's really good. And this is despite you making the choice to slow down a little bit this year to have more time to do the other things that you love in addition to photography.
I used to joke around that if I could close, I think Chuck said this many years ago, and I said, I wish I could get there, but if I could close and just open back up in August, the fat of my year is August through December. The first 6 months are fine, and it keeps me going, but that last 6 months, that's when, oh baby, and the last quarter, October, November, December is really where the heart of the maximum income is, because people have a real reason to invest in portraits.
And you can't do that, can you, Tom? You can't. Because, and why is that? Why can't you just shut down for the big chunk of the year and only work during those months where it's really big?
It sends, well, first of all, if you did, you'd stop marketing, and that would be not good, because, why do Coke and Pepsi market all the time? Because even though everybody in the world knows what it is, if they stop, the mind is short-sighted and people start drinking RC Cola. Yuck. So, but,
does that still exist?
Yeah, nothing against RC Cola. But and moon pies. I've never had a moon pie, but I hear they're good with RC Cola. It's a Southern thing, I think. But the idea is that you want to be an existing person. And again, you have VIPs, you have people that send a referral. So those folks that you photograph first part of the year, other people see their photographs, they send people in. There's multiple reasons. Now, it doesn't mean you can't take time off. I used to take half of January off, part of February off, and go to like the Caribbean or Bermuda or Mexico, whatever. And so you could still want to make sure you have time off and recharge and everything. But just closing would not be good. That would give the wrong impression. If someone came by and the lights are out and you're just, or if you're doing something else, they think, well, apparently he's not doing that anymore.
And like you said, the marketing, you have to keep the marketing going. The marketing doesn't stop. The marketing isn't just what you put out there when you want to get people in the door this week for something as an emergency. It is something that is an ongoing process. So let's talk about seniors. Now, despite you having more seniors than you did families this year, your sales still were not quite as high as families, because again, the average sale for family photography is just so wonderful, which is why we encourage all of our members to do family photography. From a financial standpoint, it's fantastic, and from a creative standpoint. But talk just very quickly about seniors.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of weighted. This in the digital age, the old days of when we had to have film and negatives retouched to get a yearbook photo sent in. Now everything is digital, of course, so it's all uploaded. So the time has shifted. It used to be we started in April or May. Now we start in May or June and starting doing photography, but it's really weighted. That's like weight in the fall, because people love those fall foliage and come to our house, and the woods in the back are beautiful, and our camp and so forth, the cottage. So I probably have another $10,000 or $15,000 in gross sales to go with seniors that I have photographed that we have projections scheduled for, so or balances due, and what the ones that I already ordered. So that's not a done number, but that's where we were at. And so I did photograph a fair amount in October that we still have to go. So that number will bump up as well.
Fantastic. And then now babies, which again is a wonderful example of hey, January, February, March, statistically slower times for most photographers. If you don't want that to be the case, you just up your baby plan because babies are being born year round, So that's one of those wonderful things that, again, Tom can use it like a faucet and decide, hey, how many babies do I want to be photographing right now? Because your average sale for babies is not, even with the baby plan, isn't quite as high as maybe graduating seniors or families, right? But they still are when you do the baby plan, they're still really good, right?
It is really good, and again, they can lead to family groups and lead to people referring other people in. The thing I also like about them is they keep the rust off me. In January and February, I'm still photographing, even though families and high school seniors aren't going on in January, February, March. That first quarter of the year, especially in the northern climates such as Maine, can be deadly. So, especially with oil, and all, you got to pay to keep the lights on. That doesn't go away. Even if you don't have any clients, the bills are still there. So we have to keep that workflow going. So the marketing I do in the last quarter of every year is designed to bring in business in the first quarter. So as we got into the summer and the fall, I had to cut back somewhere, and it was with the babies. We'll see. It's kind of an experiment. I could have kept them going at a higher rate and cut out something else, but I think it's worked out fine. And so the baby sales there are really for up till probably May or June, and then it really tapered. That will again go up because I do have more scheduled for projections and balances on pickup and also on between now and Christmas. And that's the other good thing is between now and Christmas, the end of the year, I will have baby plan sessions coming in, and also new baby plan clients who come in and invest in the package for the first time. I didn't mention those. That's not really in there, but that's an important part too. And again, that keeps me on top of mind of people. Where'd you get those taken? Those are beautiful. And it's January and February and nothing else is going on. It's a good referral.
Yep, and if you're the least bit interested in a baby plan, go to the online vault, type into the search bar baby plan, and you will get a college degree in a doctorate degree in exactly how to earn a great living doing baby photography. Tom just has shared everything with us on that vault. You will love it.
I could easily do $80,000 a year gross sales easily in just babies.
Yep.
Forget all the other stuff. But I'd have to do more volume. I'd have to photograph more babies because the average, they come in several times for their photography and then their projection appointment and then their order pickup. So each session is three appointments, not counting the original design consultation, which is just to get them signed up and in policy. So, there'd be a lot of work, but I'll tell you, I love it. I have more fun. You get a baby to smile, people thought like, yeah, you are good.
There you go. All right. Well, how about, so you had a category of other, $6,500 for commercial photography. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's thus far because some of the checks haven't come in yet for some of the things I've done, and it's ongoing. But that's the referral I was talking about to the Hannaford supermarkets, the University of Maine, those type of business portraits, executive portraits, things like that that I don't market for. I don't do plug your ears, Chuck. I don't do headshots. We don't call them that anyway. But head and shoulders portraits. A real estate agent, God love them. My mom was one. But I don't do those because they're looking for cheap and quick, and I understand that. They're just getting going usually. I don't do any, do you do something for a dating site? I have a dating service. I want a really nice headshot. And I'm like, good, let me know who does it. And good luck. But I don't say that. But you have to resist those. It's hard to turn that money down sometimes, but it's just not worth your time, in my opinion. And because you got bigger fish to fry, as you can see. How much money, how much income, how much profit can you make from taking one, $50, $100 bucks. That's not a lot of money.
All right. So, and again, this was in a year where Tom has purposefully slowed things down, making a decision that has nothing to do with where the industry is going, where the economy is going. Things are hopping as much as ever for your target market. Somebody who is struggling to put food on the table, and I sympathize with anyone that is struggling with that. There are a lot of people worldwide that are doing it. aren't going to be able to consider the luxury of having a fine portrait created like this. It's just not something that can be done. But for people who do have that discretionary funds, they want this more than ever. So, but good that you're able to make that choice to kind of slow things down and do some other things in addition without even remotely considering closing down your business. This will be able to keep going as long as you want on your terms. That's what this is all about. So we just have a few images here to kind of show, Tom, just very quickly. We don't have a lot of time left, but if you just want to talk about, these are all sessions that you did this year, right?
Yeah, the little girl on the left actually was late last year. It was during the winter. We couldn't do anything outside, but they wanted some window light. We went to a home. That's some window light portraits we talked about. And then the other two, the little fella in the middle was the older brother of one of my baby plan clients. They had me do the family and the baby. And then this little guy came in, and he was just so much, you can tell how much fun he was. The other little boy, he'd gotten a puppy, and he actually had raised a lot of money for Humane Society. So this was kind of, appropriate that he was in this portrait with this dog. So how much fun is that, though? I mean, I get to do those. I mean, I spend time, and I don't know if you'd do this, Chuck, but I'm not necessarily great always with names from years ago. But I never forget a face or a session. I could tell you what they were like that day, how it went, and how much fun it was. And I've been in this long enough now that I photograph high school seniors, and I photograph their parents. So jokingly, because I don't remember all these things, they're like, you did my dad's senior portraits. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he was so nervous. He had a mullet. He was 17. I could tell you stories. They'd laugh. Oh, tell me. I don't know a lot of people from my dad's age when he was that age. So it's really fun. The longer you're around, the more relationships you build. It's great.
All right, let's talk about these, it looks like family portrait sessions done this year.
Yeah, the one on the left was from an auction and charity at a local school. They were raising money for, I can't remember which one this was, but not project graduation, but like playground equipment. But it was a school where my daughter had gone earlier in her life, and I really believed them. And so they ended up with I think it was a 2024 on canvas of that one. They originally came in, I think the portrait gift certificate was for an 11 by 14. They had bid on this thing, but they decided to upgrade it once they saw it projected. And they said, is that the 11 by 14? I said, no, this is. And I zoomed it down. They went, well, we appreciate the donation. We got to have something better than that. The family in the middle, baby plan members and the grandparents wanted to get in on it, and during the fall. And the one on the right, the girl on the far left, the blonde girl, is the mom of a baby in the baby plan. And believe it or not, in the middle is her mother, who I said, I didn't say this to her. I'm thinking she drinks oil of Olay right out of the bottle. And the grandma. I mean, they're beautiful. So they were like, do you mind doing a family portrait, when we do the baby plan? I said, absolutely. So we did that, but I just thought that was really sweet. And those generations and how much they loved that, how much fun we had. And they send more people to me. It's unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah, and if you want more information on auctions and charities that are very profitable for Tom as well, just go to the online vault and type the word auctions or type the word charities, and it'll pull up all kinds of details on exactly how he does everything he does for that. Very valuable. There's all kinds of great marketing information on the online vault that'll help you get the clients you need to have the successes that you deserve.
All right.
I talked to one of our members recently, just sent me a message, had a question on equipment, I think it was. And she mentioned she had just done an auction or a charity the way we do it, and she'd gotten 8 sessions out of it. I thought that was pretty darn good.
That's fantastic.
She likes to let me know once in a while, hey, guess what happened?
Right on.
You don't have to share the name, but did it begin with an S?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember speaking with her, right?
Yeah.
As well, about this, and she really had great questions, had watched the stuff on the vault, and was ready to go into this thing, and very excited. So I'm very glad to hear that worked as well as it did. Talk about these babies, children. I mean, look at those faces. Look at that. Who's not going to love those? Gorgeous.
Well, one of the few times that we kind of date things is with the baby plan, because they do want to look back and go, oh, that's when he was 6 months old and able to sit up. And if it's the time of year, like they were growing pumpkins and she brought in some little pumpkins and things like that. So I don't mind putting props in that are date oriented if we want to actually signify that date. The little boy in the middle just had these stunning eyes, and he was a baby plan graduate. They brought him back. I think that's his 2-year-old, 3-year-old portrait. I can't remember. But there was just something about his eyes. He looked at me with that face, and some people might interpret that as sad, but the mother just went nuts. That a wall portrait, and I did it in black and white just because I thought the eyes popped that way. And the little girl, that's a 1-year-old. We have that little prop for them to hold and stand on the things. 1-year-olds can start to walk. And so you got to give them something to do usually if they are walking. And so that little car, and I said, I always say the same thing. I'm like, I hope you like this portrait because someday she'll be getting her license and driving the real thing. And oh, don't say that. I love that emotional component. It's always fun.
Right. Well, Tom, thank you so much for sharing kind of, a little bit of what you discovered, learned, things that were different, things that were the same, your numbers for the year and so forth. I hope this is helpful to our members just to get an idea of kind of how this goes. Again, working on your terms, not working yourself to death. On average, Tom, how many hours would you say you work a week in your photography business this year, now that you've scaled it back just a little bit to have some more free time for other things?
Yeah, it's about 30 hours. I cut back about 10. I'd have like maybe an extra day off a week or a couple afternoons off. Depends on the weather. My daughter loves to go shopping in Portland, which is a couple hours south here. So she and I will run down to the South Portland Mall. Plus, I like to visit my grandchildren who are down in that area. So if I can kick off at noontime or just take the day on a midweek or something, just to not feel guilty about it. And again, I can afford to do that now. I'm not saying you might not be at that area yet, but everything we talk about works. It's still working, even for me going slightly part-time. And it's hard because I love what I do. So it's hard sometimes to schedule things further out because I try not to turn something away. I just say, well, boy, I'm not available this month at all. Can we put you in for next month or the month after? So, but it can work. You can make this work.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. All right. So final thoughts for this program. First of all, take one small step based on what you discovered here today. Whether it is, oh yeah, I should plan on, discovering more about that baby plan because that'll be great coming up here in some potentially slower months over the next year. Whether it's maybe, hey, I want to focus a little bit more on doing some more family photography or, whatever it is, take one small step toward getting closer to where you want to be. And remember, successful photographers like you do the things that the failures just simply don't want to do. Yeah. It does take effort. It does take work, but with the right coach, with the right information, you're not starting from scratch. You're not reinventing the wheel. Take what we've given you, just implement it. That's the key. You've got to take action. Just watching today is not enough. Now implement what you discovered. Think differently. Two, make sure you think differently than you're used to thinking. Don't get caught into those patterns of saying, yeah, this might work for Tom, but it won't work for me because I live in a really small town. Incidentally, Tom, how small of a town do you live in?
9,827 and 2 moose.
That is pretty small. And you've photographed both of those moose? I don't know what they are. Continue to take advice from those who are where you want to be. We hope that is part of why you are part of the Online Vault and the Inner Circle membership. We are thrilled and honored to be here sharing this information with you each and every month, new stuff being added to the Online Vault all the time. And then visit, of course, the Photographer's Online Vault regularly. So very important. All right. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this program. We certainly enjoy bringing these to you, prepping them, going over everything. Tom, thank you again for sharing everything that you shared today, the photographs that you shared, the numbers, just your wealth of knowledge, because you keep track of everything very meticulously. Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you for any last minute words, about 30 seconds or so. And then Dad, you can have 30 seconds to wrap us up.
First of all, be of good cheer. Things are improving and things can improve for you. But as I think Chuck taught me this, he's taught me so much, but practice doesn't necessarily mean perfect. Perfect practice means perfect. That means if you're going to do things over and over again until they become a habit or part of your policies, learn the right things. And that's what we are here for. You can do this. And thank you for coming in. It's great to talk to everybody.
Well, thank you, Tom, so much for being here and bringing all this great information. Allowing everyone to look deeply into your business. That's very valuable for someone who's not where they want to be and they're trying to figure out how it works. You gave them a great deal of information today, and I appreciate that very much. And to our members, I say, I hope you realize how important it is for you to keep numbers. Look at what Tom could tell us. The numbers, the exact numbers. Numbers are important. because basically a photography business is numbers and people. That's basically what it is. So you need to keep the numbers so you know where you are. Thank you again, Tom, and we'll see you again next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.